All right, good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Jude Sullivan. We are here to talk to you about a company called LifeVantage, which is the activation company. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the technology around activation and how that impacts your health and how that's changing how we actually look at health. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the business because this is something that's very exciting. It's probably the best kept secret that nobody's heard about. And so we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that as well, in case you might have an interest in maybe making a little bit of extra pocket money. So again, LifeVantage is the name of the company. And as we talk about products, we want to make sure that everybody knows since this technology sits in the supplement space, we don't claim to cure, treat, mitigate diseases, but everything that you see here is clinically tested and has been looked at by third party. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, and hopefully that'll make sense as we go forward here. So really, this is the nuts and bolts. This, if you take anything from this general picture is what really summarizes everything that we're talking about with activation. So when you or get sick, or you have a problem, or maybe you know somebody who has a diagnosis, but basically what's going to happen is you're going to go to a healthcare provider. They're going to try to quantify it. They'll put a tag on it, like a name of a disease or an ailment or something like that, and then there's a protocol about treatment that might involve seeing another healthcare provider. It might involve taking prescription medicines. It might involve some sort of a medical procedure. It really depends on the nature of what the problem is and its severity and when they maybe have caught it. And so what we're doing is we're switching how people look at health and not looking at it so much as something that has a tag on it, like a diagnosis name. And so with activation, we try to get to root causes. So we're not looking at a disease and then trying to treat symptoms, but we're trying to get to what's really underneath the surface of it. And so this idea of oxidative stress, and you don't even have to worry about the word oxidative. If you just think about the word stress, we're all really familiar with stress. And stress to our bodies is just a game changer in terms of how well our bodies can defend ourselves. God has created the perfect design with our bodies and our immune system and our ability to handle issues as they come up. But our bodies get overwhelmed, and when they can't, kind of pull their weight, we start to have problems. For some of us, it might be a headache, maybe it's a rash, something that we might consider benign, but our body's definitely sending up flares or warning signals that something is not right. But when we look at activation and we look at root causes, if we can address stress and oxidative stress, we don't have to necessarily look at different organ systems. So I'll give you an example of my dad. So my dad, when he was 50, he had a heart attack and ended up having bypass surgery. Very common. This was in the 80s. It was kind of the standard treatment protocol for somebody in his situation. And he survived the surgery. And then he was given this whole list of medicines that he had to take to kind of control, what was the remaining of his symptoms. And so that kind of addressed his symptoms, but the disease continued. And so it was a metabolic problem. He didn't just have heart disease, but then he developed type 2 diabetes. And so now he's on more medicines, to address, what's related to his diabetes. And then after that, sadly, he developed cancer. And so this is very common nowadays. What you see for a lot of people in the United States, especially, is that it's not just one diagnosis anymore, but it's two and it's sometimes three. And all these different healthcare providers, they even talking to each other when they're trying to care for the person who's in the middle. And they're getting stressed even more by all the different appointments they have to make, whose orders am I obeying? And quite frankly, the physicians and the care providers, the term that they use for this is disease management. And so that is almost a defeatist concept from the get-go because we don't want to have disease managed. We want to get rid of disease. And so We're not a slave to our genetics, and that's what we're talking about here with activation. So why is activation different than supplementation? Well, supplements are not used as supplements, they're often used as substitutes. And if we're substituting, that means that we're probably not doing what we should be doing in terms of taking care of ourselves the right way. Uh, I, I've used supplements for decades myself. I can't say I've always used them in the right way, and I would say that's probably true of almost everybody else. There's a supplement for almost any ailment you can think of. You don't even have to look far. Go into a Walgreens or even a Walmart, into their little pharmacy center, and you'll see shelves and shelves and shelves of different supplements that are meant to address different ailments or different complaints that people are addressing. With activation, what we're doing is we're taking something to help our body make what it requires to defend itself. And specifically, when we look at oxidative stress, we're looking at antioxidants. The big ones are superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione. So our bodies are more than capable of making these antioxidants. We just have a way to help them make it in an exponential way. And that's what we want to talk about next. So nutrigenomics is the way to use nutrition to help express what's in your DNA without changing the genetic code. When we live a poor lifestyle or we don't treat ourselves well, we're doing the opposite. We're getting an unhealthy expression of our genes, but we can also reverse that by having a healthy expression of our genes using powerful nutrition. And as I said before, all of this has been documented through third-party research. The foundation product with LifeVantage is called a Protandim NRF2 Synergizer. It's specifically designed to address oxidative stress. As you can see here, it's been published in PubMed.gov. That's the journal of the, or excuse me, not the journal, but it's the website of the National Institutes of Health. So if there's a research study that's been done, it'll be posted there, and you can go and look these things up for yourself. The research has been done at Ohio State, Harvard, Colorado State University, Washington State University. So these aren't studies that have been done by the company itself, which would be good, but some people would think, well, of course, you guys did a study for yourself. It's going to look good. These are done by universities who don't really have a stake in what the outcome is. And so we're very proud that we can, show this to people. So here's the power of activation. So people will say, oh, okay, Jude, I get it. Why don't I just eat better? Well, I would say, yeah, you should eat better. I should eat better. We should all eat better. It's coming up on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, we're all going to eat well on Thanksgiving, but we know what usually happens on Thanksgiving. But on the other days of the year, what would it take to get the same impact that activation provides? And so activation, when it's done properly, can give you the effect of killing 1 million free radicals, which are responsible for oxidative stress, every second, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, to do that through a diet, you'd have to eat the equivalent of 375 oranges, 30 pounds of raspberries, 15 pounds of dark chocolate each and every day. So you can try it. I don't know if it'd be a good recommendation. I don't think people would want to do it, much less try to do it. But it just gives you an idea of how impactful nutrition can be when it's done through activation. And Washington State University actually did a meta-analysis of thousands of different studies that have been done on NRF2 activation. And their opinion was, at the end of looking at all these studies, is that NRF2 is likely to become the most important health promoting approach in the foreseeable future. And this was actually done 10 years ago, and indeed it has become that. And yet LifeVantage is still the best kept secret in the world today. So this is Protandim NRF2 Synergizer. It's been proven through scientific research to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. It supports the natural cellular repair and rejuvenation process. And actually, what we found in the National Institute on Aging is it's one of only 3 products on the market that can actually extend life by 7%. So not only can you improve the quality of life, you can improve the longevity of your life using protanum. And it's just five herbs that are synergistically applied to get the impact that we're talking about. And I'll get into that a little bit more a little bit later. But people will say, okay, well, that's nice. You've got these studies, you can show me the science, but what happens with real people like me? And so, what I'm going to show you are a few slides that have been taken from people who have been in a doctor's office and have had things measured as a result of taking the NRF2 activator. So this is just a slide of the gene expression before somebody has taken protanum. And so what you can see is that the bars indicate that the expression is all over the map. You see the highlight where it says low, but you can also see there's high markers as well. But after you take NRF2, protanum NRF2 synergizer, you can see how it's optimized. So what was once too high is now brought into line, and what was once too low is also brought into line. So we're talking about optimization. We have a colleague in Colorado who's a specialist in integrative medicine, and so what she does is she'll look at blood samples of people. And so this is a slide of a person's red blood cells, and you can see how they're kind of clumped together. They, even to the untrained eye, they don't look like they really are healthy or they're well. And so again, this is a slide taken prior to somebody using protanum NRF2 synergizer. And then the second part of this is afterwards. And you can see how the cells are no longer clumped together. They're spacing. They can travel through the blood vessels a lot more smoothly. And red blood cells are responsible for getting oxygen to your cells and for taking carbon dioxide and other waste away from your cells into your lungs so you can breathe it out. And so you can just imagine the clump cell version versus the unclumped cell version, how well things have improved for that person. This is a blood sample of a person who is a known alcohol, I would say, abuser. They were taking 5 months of NRF2 synergizer. They didn't do any other changes in their exercise or diet, anything like that. And they were on the protocol for 5 months. And you can see the before, the AST and ALT values are in the 3-digit line. And then after 5 months, they're down into the 2-digit line. So again, this was with the person continued to drink, but they changed nothing else. They didn't do anything with their diet. They didn't do anything with their movement or their exercise. And so between October and November, you still had this type of a change. And then some people will ask, well, what about a placebo effect? And I'm all in on the placebo effect. I'll take advantage of that, all the time. But the thing is that when you see animals respond, and I'm not just talking like dogs, like what we see here, but cats, cattle, horses, deer, we have documentation of all these animals having benefited with the NRF2 synergizer. These are brothers of the same litter that are 7 years old. One is using the protanum NRF2 synergizer, and the other is not. I just don't know what else to say. Just look at the picture, right? This is one where they're genetically linked. They're both the same age. They're 13 years old. But Amelia, the dog on the right, she was activated starting at age 4. Sabrina, the dog on the left, she didn't get activated until she turned 13 years old. So we're all in on activation, and our mantra is the sooner the better. So if you're hearing this for the first time, we would recommend don't wait. Try to get activated as soon as you can because it does make a difference. The thing is that we always get focused in on what it is that we want until we see all the changes that are happening before the one that we want gets changed. So just got to be patient with yourself. So we're going to shift gears now from protanum NRF2 to the protanum NRF1. So this is one that focuses specifically on what are called your mitochondria. So if you think of the engine in your car, the mitochondria are like the engine of your cells. So when we tend to lack energy, a lot of this can be a result of having either not enough mitochondria or the mitochondria that we do have are starting to fail. So this can help boost mitochondria production and their ability to network or to signal with one another. So it helps increase the, I guess you could say, the miles per gallon within each cell. Every cell has a lifespan, and we want to try to maximize the length of that lifespan as well as we can, and the Protandim NRF1 Synergizer helps with that. So it helps to energize our cells. And then the third version is the NAD, and this supports what's called autophagy, and that's just a fancy word of a way of saying garbage. So I'm sure we all have a garbage collection at our homes. This would be like the garbage collector in your cell. So our cells do a great job of trying to keep things neat and tidy and do what they're supposed to do, but it only does that when it has the ability to keep itself clean, and the NAD helps support that. What you'll see in life right now is a lot of people are into this idea of intermittent fasting or extended fasts, and that's a way to try to boost this NAD. But not a lot of people want to eat only 500 calories per day, day after day after day. So what we've been able to show with the NAD is that you can bring NAD to 100% level within 24 hours, as opposed to having to go through a deep fast to get the same effect with a diet modification. So we have three synergizers, the one for energy, the one to neutralize, and the one to revitalize. So we collectively, we refer to this as a tri-synergizer. So the company has these, and they've documented research about them. And somebody asked, well, I wonder what would happen if we put the three of them together. Do you think that they would still do the same, or would something better happen? And so they did that. And so if we look at the three of them together, so the NRF2 is in the yellow on the left, the NRF1 is in the middle in the blue, and the NAD is in the green on the right. And the circles for each representative color show how that synergizer would work by itself. When you put the three of them together at the tri-synergizer, every single one increased. Every single one. The smallest increase was 38%. Now, if I had a stock that was improved by 38%, I'd be pretty happy. But 30%, 38% is the lowest increase that we see. The biggest increase is almost 1,800%. Yeah, 1,800%. So if you can, if it, if cost is not a factor and you're willing to, try all three at the same time, we are definitely proponents of using the tri-synergizer. Okay. So there's a whole suite of products. We're not going to go through the whole list just because quite frankly, it'd probably be a waste of your time. And we could just show stories like this the whole time. And if you want to know more about that, just get with the person who invited you to see this content and they can show you. But this is an example from Jeff Fannin. He's a neuroscientist, and he specializes in working with young kids who have ADHD and ADD. So this idea of attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity attention deficit. And so their thinking is disjointed. It's not clear. It's not signaling properly. And so if you look on both scans, the one on the top and the one on the bottom to the left, both of those scans show that that's a brain that's not doing well. Okay. And if you look to the right of that same scan, you see that the scans look a lot better. And this is a scan, a before and after scan of a young man, 16 years old, who, after the first scan, was given the NRF2, which is the one for oxidative stress, the NRF1, which is the one for mitochondria, and then our Axio drink, which is meant for clarity and thinking and processing. And so taken together, what this scientist tried to do in 8 months and failed, within 2 weeks, he was able to get a scan to appear like this, which is nice. I mean, who doesn't want to have a good medical reading? But the thing is that the kid's parents and his teachers noticed a quantum leap difference in his behavior and his attitude. So life at home got a little bit more calm, and at school he was able to actually be in school as opposed to being kicked out of class time and again. So what an impact that would make, not just on the boy, but on the family as well. So as the company grew, they decided, well, there's other things that we could maybe look at. What would be another one? And so collagen became the next best one. So I don't know if anybody here takes collagen right now, but collagen, it doesn't have the best reputation. Usually they're gritty, chalky powders. A lot of it stays in the bottom of your cup no matter what you try to mix it in, and it's very difficult to consume. And even if you consume it, your body's not very easily able to assimilate it into your body. And so LifeVantage found a way to do collagen activation. So we activate, replenish, and maintain collagen. And what we've been able to document is that collagen density has been improved by 100% in simply 8 weeks. So if you look at this slide, anything that you see that looks like yellow means that there's more collagen. So if you go from week 0 to week 4 to week 8, you see more yellow, and that represents that there's more collagen density. And so why is that important? People think, well, who cares? Well, people who care, and this is getting into vanity health, but people care about how they look. But what we say is, if you're starting to look better on the inside, can you imagine what's happening, or excuse me, on the outside? Can you imagine what's happening on the inside? And what I'm talking about is your nervous system, your bowels, and your gut, and all sorts of organ tissues that rely on having good density and good elasticity of the collagen that's in around the organ systems that we have. So I'm just going to kind of go through these pictures because the pictures speak 1,000 words. And so if I'm silent, I just want you to look at the pictures and then maybe the amount of time it took to get from the before to the after. So as one of those slides says, documentation certainly beats conversation. So you can talk till you're blue in the face, but until you see pictures like these, you're just like, well, that can't be possible, but it is. But then you get into some more severe things. We're not just talking about vanity anymore, but we're talking about real illness. The guy on the right, especially with the foot, he was being medically treated for his condition, and which is common with a lot of medicines. No matter what it is you're taking it for, is your body just reaches a point where it just doesn't work anymore. They try to give you more, and it just doesn't work, or you have such bad side effects that you just can't tolerate it. And so his skin erupted badly until he started collagen activation along with the synergizers as well. So a lot of these, what you'll find is that if you stack them together, you tend to have a bigger impact in a shorter period of time. So if you want to go slow and long, you can just do one synergizer. If you want it to be fast and impactful, you can add more synergizers. So you have choices. Again, the woman on the right, that's an autoimmune disease. So again, what you'll see a lot with autoimmune disease is people think, well, that's just me. That's just my immune system. That's how it works for me. Nothing can change it, but that's not true. It's all about the environment that we live in. You look at some of these pictures and you just imagine what the discomfort was that they were experiencing before and what it must feel like after. Varicose veins. This is another one where the vascular system, your veins and your arteries are very reliant on having good elastic vascular walls in order to get the blood to move through them. Now, veins don't have as many muscles as arteries do, and they're very reliant on the muscles to be active to push the blood back to the heart. But when the valves in the veins fail, you start to see pooling and you get these varicose veins. But when the elasticity of the collagen improves, you start to see improvement in the vascularity of the veins as well. This guy burnt himself at work. Looks pretty nasty. But a month later, not even 20 days, pretty quick recovery, pretty impressive recovery. This young gal was treated for cancer. I know there's people on this presentation right now who've experienced this, where it's all you can do just to get through the treatment, right? But then you've got to recover from the treatment itself, and that sucks too. Um, but with collagen and synergizer activation, she was able to get herself back again after the treatment was complete. So, like I said, we have a whole suite of products, and some of them you can ingest. Some of them they're topicals. There's hair products, there's skin products. So again, just get with the person who introduced you to this company and these products, so you can get your questions answered about that. But there's a lot that you can choose from to suit your needs. What I want to do now is just take a detour because we're in the middle of a big epidemic. You know, it's a devastating metabolic situation. Not long ago, chronic health in children was only present in 1% of the cases. It's now 50%. Half of the children that we have type 2 diabetes in children has gone from 1% to 50%. Once upon a time, type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes because it took a lifetime to get. We now see kids who have type 2 diabetes as young as 10. They have non-fat or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease at the same age. Just horrible. Childhood autism has gone from 1 in 1,500 kids to 1 in 36. Over 70% of Americans are overweight, and a third are considered clinically obese. Childhood cancer is up by 79%. And as I mentioned, teens having fatty liver disease exceeds 18%. You know, that's something that you just shouldn't see in kids at all. So we have an answer that makes sense for this, and it's another activator, and it's called the GLP-1 activator. So GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide, is a hormone, and it's a hormone that's responsible for aiding in our digestive process, specifically its ability to control insulin sensitivity. So insulin is kind of like the master hormone, but it's impacted by other hormones that float in and around our systems. Excuse me. And quite frankly, we have so much insulin circulating in our bodies right now that people don't call it insulin resistance anymore. It's called type 2 diabetes. And so insulin resistance isn't insulin resistance, it's actually type 2 diabetes. And so there's really no gray area with this anymore. People will look at what are called hemoglobin A1C levels at the doctor's level, and they're skyrocketing into the double digit values. And people are being prescribed different forms of insulin analogs because your body just doesn't recognize its own insulin anymore. And it's a real problem. And so glucagon-like peptide helps recalibrate what's considered the mind gut axis. So our mind and our gut are very tightly regulated. Our 70% of our immune system is related to gut health, and the GLP-1 also serves in this capacity as well. And so GLP-1 has an impact on all these major organ systems, as you can see them, in its ability to become more sensitive to insulin that's in your body. So rather than having to take an analog of insulin, you can get your sensitivity back to your own insulin. So what we see now is there are synthetic versions of the GLP-1 that are being prescribed. I heard a presentation, this is probably 2 weeks ago. It was from a physician. He's a medical physician. He's licensed. He practices in Florida, and his practice is right by a Walgreens. And he said that the Walgreens right by his clinic, they put out 50,000 units of these semaglutide synthetic shots every day, every day. And that's just one. Revenues at Walmart have increased by 30% in the last 18 months, in part because of what's happening with the distribution of these semaglutide medicines. Now, that's what you hear in the popular media, and you'll see people who have lost weight, and you've seen people who have reduced their A1Cs, and that's great. But people don't hear the shadow side of that, which is that there are cases that are not so happy. And actually 50% of people who are prescribed these medicines end up having to drop out for a variety of reasons. So common side effects would include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and constipation. There are more serious side effects, but like any other medicine, what you're trying to do is you're trying to amplify the effect that you want, and you're trying to minimize the side effects because it doesn't belong in your body. It's synthetic. And so your body recognizes that it doesn't want it there. So you're fighting this fight about, does your body need it? Does it even want it? And you're going back and forth with it. And it's expensive. And so yeah, there comes a time where you might have reached your weight loss goal, and then the insurance company will say, well, we're not going to pay for it anymore. And then what do you do? And so now you're paying a couple $100s per month to not lose weight anymore, and people aren't want to do that, so they stop using it, and then they gain their weight back. And so it's a sad story. So the FDA has various reports. The total cases reported, and typically this is underreported, is over 20,000 cases of adverse effects. Serious cases about 9,000. You can decide what serious is defined as, and there's been deaths. And so people don't want to hear that, but we are so tied into weight loss as being the panacea for being well or having good health that people don't care. They'll just go through it, no matter what the seriousness of the side effects are, to get to that magical weight that they want to get to on the scale. So we propose, why not activate instead of going through the synthetic route? So if you can naturally activate your GLP-1, you can feel fuller longer, spend less time thinking about food, this idea of food noise, help you make healthier food choices, maybe avoid the late night cravings, and then actually losing weight and improving your A1Cs as opposed to going through the synthetic route and battling all the side effects. To me, it seems like a no-brainer. So LifeVantage came up with the MB activation, which is a dual activation. So it's a two-part system. There are two pills called the MB Core, which you take early in the morning, and you do it 30 minutes before you take in on any other calories in your body. Okay, so just drinking it with some water or consuming it with a glass of water, and then waiting for 30 minutes. And then there's the MB Enhanced, which is a powder, and you can take that anytime after that 30-minute window is done. And you can mix it in anything you want. Some people will put it in a smoothie. When I do it, I just mix it with water. It mixes real well. It tastes really good. As a guy who's done a lot of different powders before, those powders can be really nasty. And like I said, if they don't dissolve, you're just kind of eating sand. And that's definitely not the case with this. So it's a dual amplification system. And there was a 3-month study done. It was a white label study. So uh, people who were in the study were invited to do so. They didn't even know about the company. So again, there was no bias in terms of it being related to the company. And participants were divided into 3 groups. One comparing the system by itself, one doing the system with diet and exercise, and then a control group. And the results were, pretty astounding, quite frankly. So The GLP-1 production was increased by 140% on average. This is after 12 weeks again. The visceral fat that was in the body was reduced by 27%, and total body fat was reduced by 5%. Now, what does it mean to have visceral fat? So you can have fat that's on your body, but it's between your skin and your muscles, and that's referred to as subcutaneous fat. It tends to be thought of as not as harmful to your health compared to visceral fat. So the visceral fat is like the fatty liver fat, but it's not just around your liver. It's around your pancreas, it's around your heart, it's around all of your organs, your kidneys. So all of these organs are very metabolically active, and the more of this fat that's around them, it compromises their ability to function well. So they are able to reduce the visceral fat by 27%. So how do they do this? Well, it's done by increasing the activation by way of improving the receptors. So we have GLP-1 receptors, as I mentioned, on all those different organs in that one slide. All of those receptors become more sensitive. They're actually looking for GLP-1. They say, hey, I'm over here, come to me. And so the receptors are active again and they're willing to take the GLP-1. And it also, the GLP-1 that's in your body can be broken down very quickly by the body. It's made that way, it's made to happen that way, but we can prolong the life of the GLP-1 in the bloodstream. The more opportunity that it has to get through the body, the more likely it's to find one of those receptors and cling to it. And so this dual effect of increasing the receptor site sensitivity with the ability to have more GLP-1 there increases the overall production that you see. So after only 8 weeks, we saw an average weight loss of 9 pounds. People actually noticed that their food cravings were reduced by as much as 95%. I can personally speak to this. I'm on week 7. I've lost 6 pounds. And what even I think about it today is like how much I don't think about food. And I know it sounds weird, but when you're in the middle of a meal, thinking about when your next meal is going to be and what you're going to eat, that's a little odd. But that was kind of me. So the fact that the food noise, and they refer to it as a food noise, another way of thinking of it would be is, what kind of training were you given? So when we were growing up, people in my generation, it's like, there's kids across the world who are starving. Make sure to clean your whole plate, and make sure that we don't have any leftovers because we don't eat leftovers. And so um, there's different things that we've been conditioned to do, and so we just keep behaving that way, whether we're aware of it or not. So that food noise has gone down. But again, people want to know, does it work? So again, like I did with the collagen, I'll just kind of float through some of these pictures and not really state too much because what you see is obvious. I don't really have to add any commentary to it. Just look at some of the days that it took to get some of these appearance differences. So again, I think that question's a no-brainer. Are you ready for a change? I mean, when you see pictures like that, um, I don't know why you wouldn't want to at least give it a try. So we're just going to shift gears now, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we do what it is that we do. I mean, if you don't know, based on some of the stuff that we talked about, um, as entrepreneurs, it doesn't really make a difference if you're in business if you're not solving problems. And as you can see from a lot of the pictures that we showed, we're solving a lot of problems. But we need more voices to help along the way. And perhaps this is a way for you to find a way to add your voice to our voice and get the word out. This company is the only company that's leading the way in activation. So there's really no competition anywhere in the world right now. We only have about 60,000 consultants in the United States. So there's a huge uh, growth opportunity. The company is debt free and it's publicly traded. So everything about the company is transparent. It's not privately held where they can tell you one thing and then they can pivot and do something else the next day and just kind of leave you flat footed. There's a number of companies that have had to deal with that. And the biggest thing is that people who are interested in this idea of social media and social selling, being influencers, whether it be on social media or with their peer groups, is that there's a way to do that as well. So there's a dual income approach, and you can do one, the other, or you can do both. And as I said, we're not just in the United States with about 60,000 consultants, but we're in 24 other countries worldwide. So not only are there no regions within the United States, there's no restrictions anywhere in the world. So if you have family or friends or people that you know who you think this would be a good opportunity to see, there's a big opportunity to grow this business in these countries. And this is not an exhaustive list. There's plans to grow beyond the countries that you see in this list right now. So we're paid by distributor rank, and distributor rank is a function of the volume of sales that you get. The average monthly check is as low as $8, a big whopping $8 in 1 month, or as much as $137,000 per month. So that's a pretty big range. But what you see is in the middle ranks, that's where the biggest payout is. Not that you have to sit there, but it doesn't take much to get yourself into the middle ranks and to have a pretty nice income. So people who are looking for just a couple $100 extra per month, it's very, very doable. And the thing is that you're not in business by yourself. You're with us and you're in business for yourself. The other thing that I like is that we have incentives, which are sometimes, financially uh, rewarded, but you can go on a trip. We have growth opportunities. So as you start to build your business, the company will fly you in free to go through more training and get to meet the corporate staff and do things of that nature. Uh, we have like I said, the Alaskan cruise, which is coming up next year. There's also an executive destination trip to South Africa that's coming up next year as well. So the company is always seeking to reward its consultants in any way that they can. So the compensation plan that we have is referred to as evolve because you evolve as your business evolves. And so it's aptly named. The way we look at it is there's a way that you can grow your business by sharing. You can do it by building and growing, and you can do it by leading. And so, like I said, you have the opportunity to do the business one way, the other way, or you can do it both ways. And so this is a very high level overview. There is so much here. We could spend a day, and I'm not kidding, a day just on this. And so I don't want to overwhelm you by, slides that look like, oh my gosh, what is this all about? Because it's a system where you learn as you grow and you get paid as you grow. And so I couldn't explain everything as I know it right now, and I don't care because I'm still getting paid. And that's the same way that it can work for you too. So it's not a process where you need to know all this. You don't have to be somebody who knows science like me either. It's just about how can you leverage yourself with the people that you know to help you grow your business. So you can earn a personal sales bonus. So if you like to sell product, you can do that. And so you can earn money on the sale of products. You get 10% of the products that you sell up front. Okay, so if you sell a product X for $100, you would make $10. And if that person's on a subscription, you get that $10 every single month. And so the effort it took in 1 month, you will get paid on as long as they continue to use the product. So you don't have to keep going again and again. So thinking of it like people who are trying to be affiliate marketers, like on Amazon, they're lucky to get anywhere from 4 to 6%, but then they have to do another order the next year. They don't get paid on the repeat orders. And so they're always having to work to do it again and again and again. But with LifeVantage, you have that sale that continues to go with the subscription. Now, if you get a number of customers that are buying product from you, you'll get a bigger bonus. So there's a bonus that is referred to, we call them by gems. So Onyx, if you're between $500 and $999, you'll get an extra 5%. If you become an Emerald, which is between 1,000 and 1,999, you get an extra 10%. If you're between 2,000 and 3,999, you'll get an extra 15%. And if you're over 4,000, you'll get an extra 20%. And that's paid out monthly. So once the aggregate sales are made and calculated, your percentage is then calculated. So if you can imagine 30% on $4,000 a month, that's a pretty good payday. And every 15th of the month, you see that deposited in your bank account. Now, what if we use the GLP-1 activator income as an example? So if you have four customers that are using the GLP-1, and let me tell you, we're sitting on a powder keg right now of people who are wanting to lose weight. We're coming into that time of the season where Thanksgiving starts, going into Christmas. People are going on overdrive in what they're eating, what they're drinking, and what they're gaining as a result. And come January 1, they're all going to be wanting to lose weight. But if you had four customers who are using the GLP-1 system, you'd be paid $106 for those four customers. If you go to 100 customers, you'd be paid $4,500. So again, that's a range. It doesn't mean that's what you have to do. It's just what do you want to do? And like I said, we are in such a demand right now. We had 90 days of product that sold out in 13 days. So do you think people want this? Do you think it works? Oh yeah. So this is a big opportunity for a lot of people right now. There's also a build and grow, as I mentioned. So we have levels that you can acquire. So if you go from the consultant route, those green bars into the middle pinkish bars, you start to maybe grow your business a little bit more. Maybe you've recruited a couple people who want to become a consultant with you. And so you get to be paid overrides on the sales that they make as well. And I think sometimes there's a misconception that people think, well, if you're at the top, you're making money off me. You're never making money off of somebody, you're making money with them. So whatever money you make is not being siphoned away from you to somebody else. People are all making money together. So a rising tide will raise all boats. And so there's a common misconception there with network marketing or multi-level marketing, however you want to define it. But this is a big opportunity where there's no restriction on the number of levels. They show 9 levels here, but there's a way where they can actively compress things and make it work to your advantage. And they're trying to make it work to your advantage. So you can build and grow your business with just a few extra consultants with you. If you want to take it, excuse me, into a higher level and you lead, you're starting to actually become more of a true mentor to people who want to grow big time. And so now we're talking about generations where you're actually mentoring, you're investing in people to the point where they're developing other people just like you. And so this is something where, to be honest, they call it network marketing for a reason. Nothing comes easy with this compensation plan, and nothing comes easy with any compensation plan. So you do have to invest yourself. So I'm not going to kid you about that. But the compensation that you get, and I told you $137,000 a month, those are real numbers. So that's what's possible. But it's just a matter of, do I want to invest into somebody to the degree that I would want their success more than I want mine. If you have that kind of heart, then this might be something that you might want to seriously consider for yourself. The last thing I'll touch on here is what's called a leadership pool. And we actually call this a culture pool because this is what unites everybody in the company. So there's 40 shares that are distributed amongst everybody that was in the yellow color. And basically what happens is that they take all the revenue from the company throughout the whole world. So not just within your organization, but throughout the entire company. So last year, LifeVantage uh, had revenues of $240 million. So divide that by 12, and then take 4% of that and divide it into 40 different parcels. And that's what's distributed among uh, these ranks. And so that comes to anywhere from maybe $1,500 a month to $150,000 a month just on this one bonus. But what that means is that we're all on the same team. We're not competing against each other. We're helping each other. We're building each other up, and we're helping each other get to the goal that they want to get. And so for me, having been in this industry before and had people talk like they're on the same team and like we're all in it together, but the actions didn't always follow the words that they put out there. Um, this is very refreshing for me, and it really is a game changer from an industry perspective. So I'll just leave you with this. Do you see yourself, if you're not already, as a customer, or do you see yourself as a consultant? And maybe if you are a customer, do you see yourself maybe upgrading to be a consultant? You know, if you're actually asking yourself these questions, we just want to have a conversation with you. You know, so moving forward, we just want to know how best we can serve you. So with that, we'll call this an official end to this LifeVantage presentation. We will talk to you next time. Whoever got you to see this information, make sure that you get back to them with any questions that you might have.